So now we're going to answer the question, is God in control? And before we get there, I want to show you this video because it really illustrates what I'm trying to talk about this morning, that sometimes things are out of our control. And here we go with that.
Hold on down here, okay?
Yeah,
Hold on down here.
lean your head back.
Just keep your heads all the way back.
Okay.
Keep your feet on that bar as much as
Hold up. Are you sure we won't fall out? No chance. No chance. We could fall down and die, but Janice, God. Woo! Look, there's a camera. Hi. Get ready. We're getting ready to spring. Keep your head back. Feet on the rail.
Hold on one second.
Oh, snap.
Guys, I don't know about you, but I feel like 2020 is Janice. And we're losing our mind in the other seat, and Janice is just, cackling her head off at us. But how many times do you feel like that in life, guys? Maybe you feel like that right now, like you're on this crazy roller coaster ride, and 2020 is just laughing its head off at you while you're just screaming and hanging on for dear life. That is how life feels sometimes, guys. And I know that you feel that too in your life. And with everything going on in our lives, we need to ask ourselves and know the answer to this question. Is God in control? And the passage we're going to look at in just a second, let me set it up for you guys. The book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, tells the nation of Judah that they're going to be taken into captivity for 70 years. And then the second half of the book of Isaiah, he encourages them and says that even though God is disciplining you in captivity for 70 years, even though Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians have come in and taken you into captivity, he writes 150 years before they would need it, telling them that God is still in charge. Yes, God is disciplining you for your rebellion against him, is what he says to the nation of Judah. And he takes them into captivity for 70 years. But he writes to them through the prophet Isaiah in chapter 40, encouraging them that, yes, God is still in control. And we'll start with that in verse 21. He says this, do you not know? Do you not hear? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundation of the earth? It is he who sits on the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent. In the beginning part of chapter 40, he asked the question, who will you compare me to? And he says, an idol? Will you compare God to an idol? And he goes on through chapter 40 explaining that God is not an idol made with human hands, but he is the creator of everything. But not only is he the creator, he is also sovereign. And that means he is in complete control over the affairs of man. And he asked that rhetorical question, have you not heard? And he knows that they had heard. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So they had heard, they did know that God is the creator. And sometimes we forget that God is the creator, but he's also the sustainer of his creation. We also see in Romans 1, 20 through 23, it talks about those that would make things with their hands and worship the creature rather than the creator. And a lot of people do that in their lives. But we need to understand this morning, when life is like Janice, laughing its head off at us, and we're going through the struggles of everyday life, we need to remember that God sits on the circle of the earth. That means he is the creator of all. Guys, he is above all, and he is actively involved in all. And that verse says that we, the inhabitants of the earth, are like insects. We're like this small, insignificant grasshopper in the sight of God. But you know what's so remarkable about God this morning, guys? Is that even though we're like grasshoppers in his sight, Psalm 8:4 tells us, what is man that you are mindful of him? So I want to encourage you this morning. Yes, God is the sovereign creator of the world. He is separate. He is holy. He is distinct from his creation. But guys, God loves us enough to be involved in our lives and what's going on in our lives. Not only does he have control over what's going on in your life, guys, he also has control over what's going on in the world affairs. And we see this in verse 23 and 24. It says, who brings princes to nothing and makes the rulers of the earth as emptiness. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the earth. When he blows on them and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble. So you see, not only is God sovereign over what's going on in your life, guys, he's also sovereign over what's going on in our country and what's going on in our world. And the princes of this world are as nothing in God's sight. He does a poetic way of illustrating that God is the one who raises up leaders and takes them down. In the context of those whom Isaiah was writing to, the Babylonians came and took them into captivity. And what God is saying here is saying, even Nebuchadnezzar, I planted him in the ground, and I blow on him as I will, and he will wither and fall away at my command. Even Kim Jong-un is there by God's sovereign decree. Why? I don't know. But God accomplishes his will through the world leaders, and that includes presidents of the United States. And we're about to go in. We are going in and we're casting our ballots for our candidates. And we need to remember that God is in control. And verse 26 tells us this. Lift up your eyes on high and see who created these. Talking about the stars. He brings out their host by number, calling them all by name. By the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, no one is missing. So he's saying, if you doubt that there is a creator, and you doubt that he's in control, go outside when it's dark and look up and just look at the stars. And God calls them to be created and formed, and he calls them by name. So I want to encourage you today, guys. I want to apply this to our life today. That I know we're tempted to be like the young man in the seat next to Janice on the roller coaster ride. And things in your life right now feel out of control. But I want to encourage you and motivate you this morning. God is still in control, guys. Whether we may feel like things are out of control in our lives, God's got you. And God's got things under control. And also, on November 3rd, we need to remember that God is in full control over what happens. Thank God we live in a free society where we can go and cast our ballot. Or we can say, I'm not going to vote for either of these people, and we can stay home and not do that. We had the freedom to do that, and I'm so thankful that we live in a country where we have a say. But ultimately, when we vote, guys, the final vote belongs to God. So whatever happens next week, remember that, guys. God is in control, and God is in control in your life today.